Hi fantasy managers, welcome to FPL Team Talk. In this video we're going to go through some of the transfers that have been made by FPL managers over the last few days. We're going to look at the top 5 coming in, the top 5 going out. We're going to have a look at my side, what I would do, and just talk about whether managers are making good decisions or if they're making some knee-jerk reactions. So give it a like if you find this useful, don't forget to hit subscribe, and let's take a look. So before I go into the players that have been transferred out and transferred in this week so far and look at whether we think they're good decisions, bad decisions based on their stats, I do want to make the point that this is my side at the moment. I'm going to use it as an example. Some of my players have just not done very well. Ward's not had a great game. I've got Ramsey on the bench so I can bring him in. Dalot didn't look that impressive, I have to say, Man U's defence. Bailey's blanked. Sterling, he's a high profile, big money, premium player asset for me in the middle of the park. And he only got me 3 points, so he didn't do anything. Jesus only got 2. There's a lot of players that I could start to think about bringing out. And this is where my team sets up. I've got Saka, who obviously is 8 million. Martinelli's a lot cheaper. But you know what? I am not going to make any transfers. When I set this side up at the start of the season, I had time to think about it. And nothing essentially has changed enough in 1 week that's going to make me reconsider any of these decisions. I am not on the basis of Saka having been outscored by Martinelli. He might score 2 million. I am not going to suddenly take Saka out. 1 game is not enough for me to do that. I've got Jesus, he's blanked. What I saw and what I know about him in pre-season, I'm not going to knee-jerk and take him out. Okay, I've brought these players in for a period of time. I've got to be a little bit patient. The fact that Bailey's blanked, he's 5 million. I'm not expecting him to return every week. And a lot of these players will not return every week. So I do think it's important that you just do not knee-jerk reaction. Just have a little patience sometimes. I absolutely get some of these transfers that we'll look at though. And I can't argue and say they're bad decisions. But for me, the likes of Saka, I could easily save myself 2 million, go down to Martinelli. But at the start of the season, I thought, who's going to score more points? I think Saka will score more points. Now, 1 game is not going to change my mind about that. If after 2 or 3 games, as we think that actually Martinelli, who probably looked more impressive than Saka in that Palace game, will outscore him, then yes, I can start to reconsider it. But right now, 1 game is not enough. Every game that goes by, I'm going to get more information, more statistics, more reasons to make better judgments later on. And I want 2 transfers for game week 3. I've got more information by that point, and I think 2 transfers, given that information, is going to really hold me in good stead. So for that reason, I absolutely, before the start of the season, made sure that I said that I'm not making a transfer. I don't want to book a transfer in. I didn't go for Kane. I went for Haaland, and that's panned out much better than I could have hoped for. I would have expected Kane, I think, to outscore Haaland that first week, but I didn't want to book a transfer in for Haaland in the second week. So that's panned out really nicely for me. This is where my side set up, and I just want to make the point. I'm rolling that transfer. Nothing's changed for me massively that makes me want to do anything different. But let's have a look at some of the transfers that have happened so far this week. So the first one that's gone, and he's already gone up in prices, Zinchenko. He's been brought in by 379,000 people already, FPL managers. That's a huge amount. He got 1 assist in that Palace game on Friday night. And yeah, he had a great game. XGI 0.63. I can absolutely see why he's been brought in. If I was thinking about bringing him in now, it's going to be a little bit more trickier because I'm going to have to go to take down maybe a Perisic to Zinchenko. And I could kind of see why you do that. I think for me, I had him in a lot of drafts. I just didn't like the fact that he's playing left back. I thought if he was going to be playing in more midfield and there was a chance, 5 million in that Arsenal side looks a good, decent purchase. For me, playing left back just put me off a little bit, and there was cheaper other Arsenal options there. You've got Saliba, you've got Tomiyasu. But for those bringing him in, yeah, he's had a great game week. He looks like a really good player. His XGI in that game was 0.63. It's only 1 game. But he did get in and around the box. He had a few shots. He had a decent pre-season. I quite like him. I think he looks a really decent player. Haaland's the one that everyone's obviously lumped into. 691,000 FPL managers have brought him in. We all know what he did at the weekend. And what a sort of mark he's made on the Premiership already. He's absolutely outperformed everyone else. He's taking penalties now as well. Absolutely. I can see most people are moving from Kane to Haaland. If you've already done that, I absolutely get it. It wouldn't be a transfer that I would have liked to have booked in. I definitely think going on Kane first week, I would have done as well. If you did that, it wasn't a bad decision, just didn't pan out very well for you. But I kept holding because I just knew his second fixture was so good. For me, it's really panned out nicely as well. But he was just amazing. I do get people going onto him, moving across the Kane. I don't think I would want to go into that Bournemouth game sat behind the sofa knowing that Kane's playing at Chelsea and Haaland's got these fixtures because they just look brilliant coming up. But if you haven't done it already, he now becomes quite a difficult player to get to. Suddenly you're going to have to use 2 transfers to get to him because there's simply no one else that you can afford to do it with. So you're going to have to take a hit. So that becomes a different strategy altogether. But if you've done Haaland already, absolutely. If you've got the money to get him, I think you have to. I think you have to bring him in. I think he could just do so much damage in those games. Could really hurt you not having him in. Next one then that was up on our list was Mitrovic's been brought in. And again, 6.6. He's a decent budget striker. We knew from last year how good he was. He got 2 goals, didn't get any assists, that's fine. He's on penalties, we know, great XGI. 345,000 managers brought him in so far. For me, I'm just not sure. I wouldn't, it's just a price point that's a bit awkward. If you've got Jesus and Haaland up front already, if you're moving from Jesus to Mitrovic, I would have to question it. He does get you more money. Mitrovic's next 2 fixtures look decent. But after that, you've got Arsenal away, Brighton, Tottenham. I don't really fancy him for any of those fixtures. I think they're quite difficult. And just on one game at home to Liverpool, yes, it was Liverpool, and yes, they played well. One being penalty. I'm not sure I've seen enough of him that I would jump onto that, but he's already gone up in price. Yes, he had a decent game. For me, Wolves, Brentford, okay, decent fixtures, but I'm already booking. If I bring him in now, I'm kind of booking a transfer out for Arsenal, Brighton, and Tottenham because I don't want him in the side. And he's going to just sit on the bench. And it's a lot of money to sit on the bench, which could be used elsewhere in the squad. For me, I'm just not sure it's a great move. He could really, absolutely hit his straps in the next 2 games, got a lot of points. For me, though, I'm booking a transfer further down the line. It's quite a bit of money that I'd want sat on my bench. So, for me, he's not really one that I'd be looking at. But I can definitely understand it if you're moving from someone else on a similar point. He looks certainly decent at 6.6 now. Next up, then, we have Kulusevski. Chelsea away, really difficult fixture. I'm not 100% behind this move. 237,000 people have already moved him in. Hasn't moved up in price yet. 8 million, there's a lot of other options at 8 million. If you haven't brought him in for the Southampton game, he's obviously got 1 goal, 1 assist, a great XGI. You're bringing him in for Chelsea away, which seems a bit of a strange. You now got Richarlison back. Now, who's Richarlison going to come in for? He's not going to replace Kane. He's not going to replace Son. Kulusevski's place would seem to me to be one under threat. So, Richarlison, 60 million. I don't think he's going to play that many minutes sat on the bench. Kulusevski and him, I think, are going to be vying for that same position. I can't see them both playing. I might be wrong, Spurs fans. But to bring Kulusevski in for the away fixture at Chelsea seems a bit of a strange one. If you're going to bring him in, I'd certainly look at the Wolves, Forest, and then you got Fulham in game week 6. That looks nice. But right now, I want to be making sure how does Richarlison and Kulusevski fit into the side before I start making that transfer and that move. So for me, this one, yes, he looks a good player. We know what he's like last year. Question marks over Richarlison. And just Chelsea away, that looks like a difficult fixture. I'm not sure I'll be wanting to bring him in for that one. Next up on then we have Martinelli. You absolutely get this one. He looked really good, I have to say. I've got Saka. I took Martinelli out. I just think Saka was going to score more points over the season. I haven't changed my mind about that. But on the basis of that one game, Martinelli looked really good. They've got great fixtures coming up. At 6 million, there isn't many better players. I absolutely get it. If you want to move across to Martinelli, I absolutely get it. I don't think it's a bad move. I'm not going to be making that move from Saka to Martinelli. I still stand by that. So I don't think necessarily moving someone like a player like him out. If you've got someone else sitting around 5.5, 6 that you want to move on to, I don't think there's going to be many players better than Martinelli. So I totally think he's a really good player to go on to. Nearly 250,000 managers have done just that. Let's have a look at some of the players that have moved out then. Okay, Harry Kane, straight away, he's been moved out. He's a really tough one. They got 4 goals. His XGI was okay, wasn't great, and he just didn't get any goal involvement. So that was really frustrating. I think if you're a Tottenham, if you're a Kane owner, I don't suddenly think he becomes a bad option, but I definitely understand if you moved from Haaland to Kane over the weekend, same price, I don't think that's a bad call. If you haven't done it already, you do have a bit of a problem here because you cannot do it in one move anymore because of the price swings. Haaland's gone up once the player's ownership goes up by 10%. In a week, it'll go up a point, and then it can only go up by 0.3 in a week. So already Kane has gone down in price because the amount of people have sold him. So if you want to get to Haaland now, not only have you got to go to a lesser, you've got to move money elsewhere and downgrade, you've got to use 2 transfers to get to him, so you're taking a 4-point hit. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not saying that's a bad call. You got Bournemouth at home for Haaland, and you got away at Chelsea to Kane. So you would expect Haaland could do a lot of damage over Kane owners in this week. If you've owned both, Kane's just a keep. I think the fixtures after Chelsea look decent. You've got Wolves, Forest, West Ham and Fulham. They are really good fixtures. Kane is undoubtedly going to score and get contributions in them. I'm not sure whether he's worth taking money out of the side elsewhere, taking a hit as well. We know Kane can definitely score against the top sides because that's not off the table. We know what he's done against the likes of Man City in the past. So I'm not sure whether people should be really knee-jerking and absolutely getting Haaland in their side at the expense of Kane and a hit and producing money elsewhere. But if you want to do that, I can absolutely see why. I think if it was me, I don't like the idea of going into that Bournemouth game knowing that Haaland's playing there and the amount of damage he could cause me. I totally agree. If I could hold my nerve and get through that game without too much damage, I think Kane's fixtures beyond that look good, and I would have saved myself a transfer and I would have saved myself 4 points. So I'll be possibly trying to hold him. But again, I don't know if I'll be able to hold my nerve because it'd be pretty painful watching that Bournemouth game knowing that Kane's playing Chelsea, not owning Haaland. Let's see who else has been moved out then in the world of fantasy football. Jesus has been shipped out by 202,000 people. I am going to absolutely level with you. I've got Jesus and I watched the game against Palace. He looked really good. XGI was not the best, 0.18, right down there. So he didn't seem to get the chances. The balls didn't really get to him in and around the areas he'd like to. But for 8 million in those fixtures, I just think he's absolutely one to keep hold of. I did not get him with the intention of if he blanks in the first week, I'm just going to get rid of him. He's one for me that is still at 8 million. Looks like a great option. I understand if you want to raise money, go for Nunes, but you're going to have to take a hit. For me, Jesus just looks brilliant. I don't understand getting rid of him. Didn't even cross my mind. He is almost a set and forget for me, especially look at those fixtures. Leicester at home, they can see goals. Bournemouth away, Fulham, 2 newly promoted sides, and then Villa at home. And Arsenal looked really good. You got Saka on one side, Martinelli on the other, Jesus through the middle. Arsenal looked impressive. I think Jesus looks impressive. We assume that Saka's on pens, but there's a possibility that Jesus maybe. He looks great. I'm absolutely not going to get rid of him after one game. Nothing has changed for me after one game. If anything, his performance convinces me that he's as good as everything that I expected him to be at the start of the season. It would have been much nicer if he got some sort of contribution, but I'm really confident Arsenal look a really good outfit and he will score goals. So for me, he's an absolute hold. I am not even considering getting rid of him or moving him on. Another player that people are going to shift and is Perisic. I kind of question, we knew he was going to be a doubt at the start of the season. We knew him and Doherty were fitness problems. I wanted Doherty. I knew he was a fitness doubt, so he has come straight out the side. Perisic, he came on for a few minutes, building up his fitness. I think if you were going to, you probably not having him in the first place would have been ideal. Getting rid of him now, I'm not sure. You could bring him in. It could have been the Zinchenko move, that makes sense to me. 5.5, I'll be tempted to hold him because the Chelsea game, after the Chelsea game, we'll have a bit more information. But if you're struggling already for 11 players and Perisic is an expensive buy in that defence, then I guess I can understand going across to another player. Maybe like we've said, as Zinchenko or someone like that makes sense and it saves you. You get you 0.4. I kind of get that. I think really it's kind of a strange one because we knew he was at doubt for the start of the season and those fixtures after Chelsea look really good. So is he going to be a player that you move off now and going to want back in game week 3 with Wolves, Forest, West Ham, Fulham? I dropped Doherty from my side. I will know by game week 3, I think, if he will be starting a few more games. But Sessegnon as well, having played so well, throws a bit more down over Perisic. I do think those will share more minutes than possibly Doherty. I just think having Perisic in the first place was a real mistake because we just weren't sure he was going to start. And then everyone knew the Chelsea fixture was there. So I just don't think it was a good idea having him in the first place. But if you have got him, and I've got another player that I can have starting, I could possibly hold him because I think Wolves, Forest, West Ham, they look like really good fixtures to sort of wean him into the side. So another funny one, just don't think it was a good idea to have in the first place, a doubt. Nothing's really changed since then, but you have got those nice run of fixtures in 3, 4 and 5 and 6. So possibly a hold, but the temptation move over Zinchenko, I can see why that is happening. Next one on our list then, we will have a look as Matty Cash. Again, honestly, I'm not sure I get this. If you started with him, poor result of Bournemouth, yes, I completely get that. He didn't have a great game. I don't think anyone who was playing for Villa did have a great game. His XG was right down there. And look at the next fixtures. You've got Everton who are struggling to put out a striker. Then you have Palace away, West Ham at home. If I started him and I had him now, 5 minutes is a little bit expensive. If you moved over to Zinchenko again, I kind of get that. But you've also you've got Everton at home, Palace away. Those two are really good fixtures. I would not be getting rid of him now. It just feels a real knee-jerk reaction. Keep Cash if you had him at the start. You've got two good fixtures. We know enough about his figures from last year to know he's pretty nailed in that Villa side. Villa decent side, especially at home. You're hoping for reaction to Everton, then Palace. Maybe see how they're getting on and then move on. Maybe move off him for the West Ham game. But I don't think right now I'll be shifting him. I'd like to keep that transfer in the bank. I think one of the last ones we're going to look at then, and this one is Heung-min Son. Another strange one. I don't quite... Again, I think it means knee-jerk reaction. If he hadn't returned in the first game, I'd kind of understand it a bit more. Maybe people booked this transfer in advance because of the Chelsea game. Heung-min Son, we know can score against absolutely anyone. 12 million at midfield, you could possibly move across to De Bruyne, I guess. But Chelsea away was always there. That's going to be a tricky game. He could still produce, though. But look at those fixtures after that. Wolves, Forest, West Ham, Fulham. Just keep him. I don't see the point in selling him. I would keep him through that game, through the Chelsea game. He could still do something. But those fixtures after that look absolutely brilliant. I think if I got rid of him now, moved on to maybe a De Bruyne, you've got the likes of maybe Diaz. But I think for those fixtures after that, Tottenham scored 4 goals in their opening weekend. There's a lot more goals in this side, and they're only going to get better with new players being sort of bled in. I just think you hold him. I think it is a painful one to take through the Chelsea game, but after that, hold him, see how it goes. 1 week, not enough has changed for me to worry about, or definitely start kicking him out my side. One of the last ones, I think this is the last one. That's it for this one then, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to give it a like, hit that subscribe button. I think the overriding opinion, piece of advice I can give you, which it came really from listening to a lot of the top managers over the years, is just be patient. Don't be persuaded by recency bias. Just be patient. Some of the decisions that we've made right at the start of this season aren't going to be changed after 1 game. Let me know how you're getting on, what your transfer plans are. We'll be back later on in a week with a bit of a watch list for you. In the meantime, take care. Good luck. Speak to you soon.